Bases dropped on a new edition of Soccer Down here. It's a Friday. It's a very busy Friday in the world of MLS. We've got a long-standing top goal scorer in the league saying his goodbyes to his current club this morning on his Instagram. We've got a trade involving one of the best left backs in the league that doesn't ever seem to get the recognition. Kind of wondering why he got traded, but then when you dig in a little bit deeper, it makes a little more sense. And then there's the little trip up I-85 to a press conference yesterday. Top Bin 90, which is a great source for our friends from Charlotte and what's going on with their crown and such. Miguel Ángel Ramírez, the manager of Charlotte. Look, this is one of those days where we had like stuff we wanted to talk about, and it's probably going to be thrown out the window because of Miguel Ángel Ramírez and what he said yesterday. I'm going to give you the play-by-play a little bit here. He was asked, what should fans' expectations be for the first season? And he finished with, let's wait and see how the roster finishes building our roster. When we finish building the roster, I will answer that question and tell you how I see things. This is all in Spanish, translated, and it's translated on the screen from Top Bin 90. And he finishes with, right now, we're screwed. Well, that's not what he said. If you're learning Spanish, this is a good opportunity to learn some words that maybe you wouldn't repeat outside of your after-school special, because he used a different phrase. He did, and I'm going to take you back to my day yesterday when I saw this. I'm going to go back in time. We're going to. So I see this come across. And I was watching the games from Argentina last night, and I see this come across, and I'm like, okay, I didn't pull the audio up at first. I'm like, oh, okay, because the tweet looks, kind of innocuous. Like, okay, he's talking about what's going on. Okay, cool. What's the expectations? Yeah, I'd like to hear what Ramírez thinks the expectations are. Starts playing, and the last part comes up with, right now we're screwed. And I'm like, that's got to be a joke. Did he really say that? And I was thinking, wait a minute, no, Top Bin 90 is a legit account. That they follow the team really well. They're not making a joke. It's not a meme account. Is that what he said? Then I played it with the audio, and I'm like, wait a minute. I'm not fluent, but wait a minute. I think he said something else. He did say something else. Then it starts to spread and spread. And I'm just going to try to give you guys the visual of because this isn't the first time we've talked about this. I feel like I've been banging this drum since the expansion draft, before the expansion draft, late last season, when they could have been working on adding players, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So this comes across. I've seen the translation. I've listened to it. I know exactly what he said, which isn't what was translated for the after school edition. And the meme, and Jared, I know you know this. John, you might not know this. You might though. The meme that everybody changes the captioning on with it's a talk show. I don't know what country it's from, but the host is asking this gentleman questions, and he is laughing so hard that he's squeaking and he can't get the answers out. That was me for about 15 minutes last night.
Yeah.
Because yeah, this happened in real life.
Uh-huh.
In real
Just
life.
Never expected it to happen, I guess.
In some ways I do, because Miguel Ángel Ramírez isn't somebody who holds back. He is 100% transparent. He's
this candor.
Great manager, and he will make this roster of into something decent and respectable because he's that good. But he laid it out there. And I don't know why everyone has been kind of running away from it, except for me talking about it as their roster build's been going on. I don't know what they've been doing. The Darwin Matis thing yesterday, on top of the rest of it, I don't know what they've been doing. it's not a very good roster. And Miguel Ángel Ramírez is pretty correct in his very frank statement about where they stand. Now, it goes further. Nick Kelly, who was the president of the club, is now the CEO of the overall entity, including the Panthers. He quote tweeted the Top Bin 90 clip, which there's a full interview, but he quote tweeted the clip. And he said, tough few weeks with DPs for the fans, coaches, and front office. Number one, outbid for a domestic winger that we couldn't justify matching in any scenario. I am going to take a wild guess that was Paul Arriola. Yes, which I will also go back into the archives of this show and saying, yeah, you should have matched it in any scenario because you don't have anything else.
Yes.
But anyway.
You'd have a good fit there. And also they have like umpteen amounts of TAM to play with because they're an expansion team.
Yeah, I mean, they have traded some of it for international slots and such. But yes, they did get some of that back in the trade for to Jory Strati after the expansion draft. They should have been able to justify that because, well, you don't have anybody else. They did sign their forward, which we've talked about. Okay, let's see if he is worth that kind of money and if he can produce at that kind of level. We'll find out. Mm-hmm. Agree to terms for a winger. Player gets hurt next day, deal off. That is a different situation that we have now information on. Thank you to Tom Bogert. And then Nick Kelly said today's news, which I'm assuming he's talking about Darwin Macis. The winger that they had agreed to terms with and then got hurt was Derby and Poland international Kamil Józwiak. 23 years old, 22 caps for Poland, 61 appearances for Derby. Got hurt last weekend, ankle injury. I'm just gonna say this because this has been brought up many, many times when I've questioned Charlotte's roster build. You're talking about their targets of Ortiz, who is a player with history with Ramirez, so that accelerates things in terms of where he stands. But coming from Tijuana, you get a forward that I don't know if anybody else in the league was chasing. Doesn't mean he's not good, but a forward that you're kind of betting on fitting Eastern European with a Latin forward line, which it sounds like you were building, except you were going after a Polish winger, which then didn't happen. Then you went to a Venezuelan winger who's been a bit of a journeyman in Spain and Portugal. And I still don't know what happened there. We know that there's the reports about the legal issue. We know that there's reports about a bar fight. They weren't hard to find. Did the club not know? Because he was in Charlotte. You could see him in the background at media day and in other pictures and interviews with different people. He was there. What happened to not sign him? Or did they not know? Or I don't know. Jared, that's a hell of a day for all this to be, dropped out on top of everything. And, yeah, they play on Saturday in the Carolina Challenge Cup. With fans in the stands for that one for the first time for them. Yeah. Charlotte's a thing. I don't know what yet, but they're a thing.
Well, we're going to have to see how they look on the field because I don't disagree with you. I mean, from what we've understood about Miguel Ángel Ramírez, and you know him better than I do, we went over this. Given his track record, you would think, okay, even if it's not a perfect team by any stretch of the imagination, he's going to get productivity out of it. Because he's good at his job. The thing that got me yesterday, like the comments were like, the comment was funny. First of all, just because like I did the same thing you did. I saw it on the subtitle and went, oh, well, that's not great. And then I
thought it was a joke at first. I honestly thought like it was a joke account or something at first, like having fun with the captions. Yeah. And I'm like, oh no, that's not. Oh, that's not what he said either. Oh,
well, that was the thing about it is. I listened, and then I had it open. I didn't even think to listen to it. I just had volume turned up, and it played. And I went, "Oh, he didn't say screwed."
No, he didn't.
No. Which look, you're going to run into that. Don't think Charlotte's the only one who does this. You run into that in different places when you have translations,
for sure,
because it affords you when you have a segment of the population that only speaks one language, and you have someone speaking in another language. You have the flexibility at times to do something like that. Where if someone says something and they let slip, it's easy to in the active translation going, oh, he said that, because he basically said that, but he said it in less church language. The thing that gets me, man, is the comments like about, and I understand, I guess, the desire for the transparency from the front office side of, hey, it's been a tough week. Here's everything,
Yeah,
but like,
you
man,
have
you
to
don't.
after he says that, though.
Yeah,
You
I
kind of
mean,
have to be like, yeah, we got to give a
Yeah.
little more
yeah,
information.
Yeah.
because I mean, my first thought on that is, you don't have to respond to everything, man.
Yeah, I
But
think they did in this one.
yeah, I mean, it's a tough situation for the front office. It's a tough situation. You know what? Every day is Admin Awareness Day. Nice to your admins who are running social media accounts, please. Um, because they're gonna have when that stuff breaks, like they're gonna have, that the admins want, oh, we're gonna have that kind of day. And
Mhm.
they're gonna have that kind of day today. So be nice to your admins about that who are running team social media accounts. They do not make roster decisions, they do not make starting 11 decisions.
I wouldn't want to make starting 11 decisions with this group. I'm just saying. Um, it's I don't know what they're doing, because here's the thing about having a great coach who can get something out of a group that's maybe not quite as well resourced, which shouldn't be the issue for Charlotte, but right now it is. You got to have pieces that fit. You got to have pieces that fit the way you want. And one thing that was said earlier, and this is when, and I mean, this isn't in isolation. I mean, we do have to remember the multiple people that have gone in and out of that front office in the last 6 weeks, like 6 weeks before you're about to start. One thing that was said was that Ramirez has become more of a manager than just a head coach, which I don't know exactly what was intended. When I differentiate between those terms, I'm talking about somebody like Gabriel Heinze, who I think was at least a very promising, good coach with good ideas. The training sessions on the field, the ideas are good. As a manager, you're talking about managing people. You're talking about managing relationships. You're talking about doing things bigger than just the practice sessions and filling out a lineup card. That's where I'm differentiating. I think Nick Kelly might have been trying to allude to the fact that Ramirez was more involved in player selection than maybe they intended, or maybe they thought he would be. I don't know. Could be wrong. I don't see, based off his track record and where he has been, Miguel Ángel Ramírez going to Poland for signings. I don't get that. The general manager didn't have general manager experience coming into the job. He had worked with an agency, which has worked in places. Paul McDonough did that before he was a general manager, before he did the job in Orlando, before coming to Atlanta. He was part of an agency. You make a lot of connections. It can work. In this case, in terms of team building, it feels very scattered. There are some guys that are definitely Ramirez guys. Christian Ortiz, Sergio Ruiz, definitely guys that Ramirez has a history with. The Ecuadorians in the midfield, Alcivar and Franco. Yes, get it. Totally. You get Anton Walks in the expansion draft. You've done your scouting. That's a good pick. We talked about that when it was going down. Jalen Lindsay, you're bringing home. I think that was a good pickup. Makes sense. The rest of it is just completely and utterly scattered. You have a 36-year-old former Austrian national team left back in Christian Fuchs. They added Joseph Mora, who they signed to a new deal. They added Harrison Awful, two guys that are Awful, especially much older. You've got three goalkeepers that we'll have to see if the Bulgarian Kalina can be a top guy in this league, because Cisniega hasn't been, Zendejas hasn't really had opportunities. The Riley McGree move, yeah, it's great on paper, but you got 23 people right now, and a few of them are hurt and not going to be able to play. Opening day is a couple weeks away. And I'm trying to figure out what the lineup looks like, and I have no idea. I really have no idea. I don't think Ramirez is wrong in his assessment of where things stand. And I just frankly don't get it. because they've had plenty of time. And as we said in the fall of last year, as the MLS season was coming to a close, you could start to see this coming. You could see it happening because they weren't being rumored with anybody. They weren't signing hardly anybody. You go into the expansion draft and they barely had anything. They made a few good pickups there. And they really haven't done enough since. Just flat out numbers. Besides, however you want to quantify the last word in that statement that Ramirez said, and if you want to go after school special with it, or you want to go, after 9 p.m. on cable TV with it, you have a very thin roster, flat out in numbers. Not even talking quality. Not even talking about, well, does it fit the way Ramirez wants to play, and is this guy one of the better guys in the league at this position, and who's going to be the impact player? I'm flat out talking numbers. You're barely going to be able to fill out lineup sheets right now. There's no excuse. There's just no excuse. None. You just had the transfer window in Europe close. The one in Argentina, depending on the team and depending on Argentine rules, which are very flexible, as we know over the years. For some teams, it's closed. A couple teams have a little more wiggle room. You can still sign guys out of there, but you're going to be signing guys that clubs are going to be willing to sell. So your markets, you can go to Brazil, you can go to Ecuador, which are places that Ramirez would know. I would assume he has, I don't know, said, hey, I have one winger on the roster right now. I want to play a 4-3-3. Could you get me some people who can play out wide, please? I would assume he would have given them a list of 10, 15, 20, 50, I don't know. Every winger in the Brazilian first and second division. You got one. Yeah, you had one that got hurt who was going to come from Derby County, Polish international. Okay. He got hurt. Then you were going to sign another one, and I don't know. I don't know their due diligence process, but it doesn't look good for the way that was handled. That still would have been 3 wingers. You look around the league at depth charts, you normally have more than 3 guys who can play in that position. Mackenzie Gaines might be able to play in that position. He's got a handful of professional top-level experience. I got nothing. I'm just baffled by the whole thing, and I really am incredibly disappointed because I expected a whole lot more out of this team coming out of the gates. They have delivered on the entertainment quotient. They have not delivered on the quality quotient just yet, and they got about 2 weeks to try to figure that out before opening day. And then getting guys signed and getting them in and getting visas done, they're not going to be there opening day probably. I think they just got Jordy Reyna's deal sorted out with his visa. So good luck, Charlotte. It's going to be a bumpy ride early on, John.
What do you think the speakerphone conversations were like involving David Tepper, the owner of Charlotte FC, once that came out yesterday?
He shouldn't have anything to say to his coach. If he started yelling at Ramirez, if I'm Ramirez, I'm like, you want to come watch what I have to try to figure out? Have you ever tried to make make chicken
salad? Yeah.
Sure. That wasn't where I was going to go, but fine. I think I might confuse you if I try to go a different direction.
Okay.
I was going to say, Jarrett, you would be able to do this, I think.
What?
Making a gumbo without the necessary ingredients.
I mean, you can. Doesn't mean you want to.
Is it going to be any good?
That's what I've got to work with.
It depends on the roux, yeah.
Have you seen what Ramirez has got to work with?
Well, first you make a roux.
He doesn't have anything to make a roux.
I know.
He has no wingers. Wingers are essential in a roux, Jarrett. I guess. I don't know.
I'm just cooking wingers. This is terrible.
They're essential, man.
Yeah, it's...
He's making a gumbo without a spatula and butter.
Yeah,
that just does not sound very tasty.
It is very interesting, and now we're getting, and I know we're seeing the conversation on Twitch Pitch about, just the build up to it of and this was also a conversation yesterday. It's not like they didn't have time. There's a lot of conversation about the last few expansion franchises going back. Honestly, I think a lot for a number of people, they're hitting this cutoff of these slew of expansions, starting with Atlanta and Minnesota and working their way forward. Like that's where they're putting the sluice gate to stop the water from going through. And you start Atlanta, Minnesota, and work your way forward. Like Atlanta obviously speaks for itself. LAFC speaks for itself in terms of success early on. Both of them done in their first playoff games, and then Atlanta wins the cup second year. LAFC makes it to CONCACAF Champions League final in the weirdest damn format you've ever seen in your life, and have the best regular season we'd ever seen up until last year. But otherwise, like you have now Charlotte, which it's not looking great. Let's see what it looks like on the field. But this part of the process has not been great. And then you have like the Minnesotas and Cincinnatis of the world. And it's like playing chutes and ladders, but the ladders are snakes and the chutes are on fire.
I'm going to find it. People already think that I'm, let me figure out the right way to say this. Charlotte hired their general manager in December of 20, if I remember right.
Sounds right.
So he's got over a year of experience there in trying to do his job. They hired Ramirez back last summer. Tepper said some very bold statements the day the club was announced. To continue to think, oh yeah, just because I think so, that they're going to fix it. I got nothing. And look, as feel like I have to say every time on this show, we give opinions. Opinions aren't facts. Sometimes we're wrong about things. It is true. Charlotte might get it right eventually. I would hope so. Be a good thing for the league if they did. I think David Tepper can spend his way out of this ridiculousness. They're not going to stink forever because I sit here and tell you from November on that this roster build has been horrible. That doesn't mean they're always going to have a bad roster build. I'm saying right now, and what they've done up to this point, it's worse than Minnesota. It's worse than Cincinnati. It's worse than any recent expansion team. The best thing they did was hire a great manager. That's one thing they did that the other clubs didn't. And you got a great manager who is dropping F-bombs in an interview a couple weeks before the season starts because he is that frustrated with what he has to work with. That's really going to go over well. Minnesota and Cincinnati and the rest of them at least could fill out roster cards easily on opening day, even if they made bad choices. And that's kind of where Charlotte is at this point, because they've made bad choices and they really just don't have much to work with, like in terms of bodies, in terms of numbers. So it's like double ridiculous. But no, the idea that we can keep sticking our head in the sand and act like, oh, no, they'll get it right eventually because I just have a feeling or I just want to be different or whatever. There's nothing to back that up. And what the world we live in this show, when we give you opinions, which we do, that's what we all do, and some are right, some are wrong. We give you things to explain why we get there. You want it from me? I'll give it to you really easily. You got an unproven goalkeeper at this level. You got 3 unproven goalkeepers at this level, frankly, but a goalkeeper coming in from the Bulgarian league is not somebody you expect to be first choice, first 11, any of that. You got a 36-year-old left back who looked past it a couple of years ago that you're probably going to have to lean on, or you're going to have to turn to Joseph Mora, who's bounced around a little bit, or Adam Armour, who is just not very experienced at this level. You've got a young right back in Jalen Lindsey, which I like. He's also injured. He's been injured. We'll see where he is for opening day. And you've added depth behind him, Harrison Awful, who's good depth, not going to be able to give you a whole lot. You got 4 center backs. 2 of them are proven in this league. Anton Walks is the most proven. Christian McCoon is pretty proven after a decent year last year in Miami, though they weren't very good defensively. And Jan Soboszynski and Guzman Corujo, who we'll just have to see. Just have to see what they give you. You got 2 good Ecuadorians in midfield, and Alcivar and Franco, who have to adapt to this league. You got Brant Bronico, who's been a bit of a journeyman. He was in Chicago. He played for the Independents after he signed with Charlotte. Good depth. Sergio Ruiz has been hurt for a good bit. Is he going to be able to be what they hope he will be? Who knows? You got two guys coming out of college in the central midfield, and Hegart and Bender, both with promise, but both are having to make the adaptation from the college game. You've got one true winger on the team in Christian Ortiz for a team that wants to play a 4-3-3. That is ridiculously irresponsible in the way you're building your roster. And there is no explanation for that. None, zero, forget it. I don't care how many people got hurt right before you signed them. I don't care if you didn't do due diligence or whatever happened with Machis. I don't care. You got one. You should have 5. You got one. You got 5 outside backs. If you're playing Harrison Awful as a winger at this stage of his career, it's malpractice. The others, good luck, I guess. Up top, you've got Vinicius Melo, who's hurt. Teenager coming in from Brazil. Long-term project, but he's hurt. Mackenzie Gaines, a little bit of experience with Austin. They want to play him on the wing. Okay, we'll see. That's a project. Jordy Reyna. How many clubs has Jordy Reyna played for in this league? And Karol Swiderski, who, again, coming from a league that not always it works. You want to keep telling me that Charlotte is a good roster build when their manager just dropped the F-bomb about it, and you want to say that they're going to fix it and it's going to be okay in the summer because they made money on Riley McGree. Well, they've had money. They've had time. What they have done up to this point is incredibly wrong and just shockingly bad, because it's not even just bad. It's not even just a bad collection of talent. It's not even anywhere near enough talent. It's not even near enough bodies, let alone talent. You get 4 injuries, and right now I believe Melo and Lindsey are not able to play at the moment due to injuries. You get 4, you can't fill out the 20-man lineup sheet. That's putting 3 goalkeepers on it, by the way. You've had a long time to build a roster that you can at least fill out a lineup sheet. There's no excuse, none. And yeah, if I want to imagine what David Tepper's saying, he needs to look in the mirror and say, why didn't he fix this sooner? Because the writing was on the wall. We've been talking about it for months. Sometimes it feels like we scream into the void around here, but saw it. It's a sheet of paper with names on it. You can see a section, wingers. Your manager talks about how important wingers are to playing the way he wants to play. You give him 1. I'll give you my hot take of the 2022 season. Miguel Ángel Ramírez walks in the summer. That's my hot take. When he's already dropping what he dropped yesterday about what he's got to work with, they better fix it quick, or somebody comes calling in the summer, he's out the door. And then you're really, really take your pick of which word he used. Well, you don't know which word he used. Take your pick of the translation of it. Because a manager doesn't say that, especially a manager as intelligent as Miguel Ángel Ramírez, without knowing what it could do. How many times do we talk about coaches, Jarrett, who use the media to make a point, to express something, sometimes to their players that they can't exactly say, sometimes to their bosses? You think Miguel Ángel Ramírez wasn't prepared to say that? You think that this came off the cuff? I don't. I think that was a message. And they don't have a lot of time to address that message, and we'll see how they do, because if, as he's won a Copa Sudamericana before, if a South American club or a Spanish club in his homeland comes calling in the summer and it's a decent offer with a functional team and he can fill out lineup sheets, I think he's out the door.
Or he has wingers.
I think he's out the door.
I think it would take more than that, personally.
I don't.
and we'll agree to disagree. I think he's got a bit of pride in the project, and there's something to be said for that. I don't think he would leave in the summer now. Now, if you wanted to tell me that you repeat the Miami scenario where he leaves in the winter, yeah, sure, that I'll buy for sure. $10.
Awesome.
I'm happy to put a 10 down on that if things don't go well. Now that being said, man, we just gotta see the way the rest of the rest of this shakes out, because yeah, you still do have plenty of time to add players in the window. It's not like the window's closed in coming into the United States. Again, remember, the international window does not just stop for everyone at the same time. For the United States, it goes into May. It's very weird. It doesn't end on January 31st like it does when you're playing FIFA. That being said, yeah, you're still missing bodies, and I'm going to be very intrigued. Let's call it that. I'll be intrigued in what they look like game 1, and then very intrigued in what they look like by game 10. Once guys kind of settle into whatever roles they've had to take up. And Jason, I think I had more fun with this quote than you did. But the Walker Zimmerman quote from the Nashville game, and you were
I haven't even brought it up because, man, people think I already got an issue with it. Then the coach comes out and drops the F-bomb about their roster build. What did Walker Zimmerman say about Charlotte and Nashville's 3-1 win?
So if you don't know, Walker Zimmerman's never been shy.
No.
He's not really shy about anything. Basically, when they played their scrimmage, I don't have the exact quote in front of me. I'll find it. Paraphrased, he basically was like, "Hey, I know you guys didn't see the scrimmage," talking to the media. "I'll tell you, they had possession, but it was like pretty much all in their own half and didn't really do anything with it."
Yeah, I know you guys didn't get a
toothless.
stream of the game, but Charlotte really didn't create much at all. When they had possession, it was mostly in their own half. That's what Zimmerman said.
Charlotte and Nashville is going to be a nasty rivalry. I'm ready for it. As much as we talk about Atlanta and Charlotte, I feel like Nashville's going to. Have you seen that GIF of Big Bird two-handing the door down, and just like blasting the door down? I feel like that's going to be Nashville into the Charlotte mind space.
I don't know. I mean, I don't know if Charlotte and Nashville turns into a thing. I think Atlanta and Charlotte will, because
that's
Atlanta,
already a thing.
Yeah, but Atlanta's got the opportunity to see them twice in the first couple months of the season when Charlotte's not going to be complete. Now, they got to go back to the drawing board here. I mean, what Ramirez did yesterday, whether it was calculated or not, I frankly think it was. I think he was waiting for the opportunity to make that point, because he's been training with this team for about a month now. He knows what he's got, and he gave you his assessment of it yesterday. They've got to get aggressive now, and you probably have to overspend, and you're probably going to have to go deeper on your list, because you're not going to get anybody major out of Argentina at this point. All the top prospects are gone. And then league just started yesterday. The Copa de la Liga did. Brazil, they're in the state leagues. You might be able to get somebody because they can still go out and get a replacement domestically. You better go heavy into Brazil. You're not going to get anybody strong out of Mexico because season's already started, window's closed. You can look around the league, and look, we joked about it a little bit when the Machis thing fell apart. There is a right winger with national team experience sitting in Atlanta right now, not in Guadalajara. I know Charlotte doesn't want to do a deal with Atlanta, I would imagine, and I'm sure probably Atlanta doesn't want to do a deal with Charlotte, but Charlotte needs somebody, and they're probably not going to get anybody with a better pedigree than Jurgen Damm. Does that deal come together? Makes all the sense in the world. Find out if it does. But that's just one. Again, that's just one. You have 1.5 with Gaines. You're going to need 2 deep at least. You're going to need 4. So you got to at least get a couple that are decent depth. I mean, this is where you're at. You can't go get any of your first choice ideas. I don't even know what their first choice ideas were. That's the thing that is the most baffling to me. Tepper's not in any way constricted with cash. in any way, he could have dropped $16 million on a transfer if he had wanted to. He could go pay somebody, Lorenzo Insigne kind of money if he wanted to. He doesn't want to, that's fine. But it's not resources that are keeping them from acquiring a good roster to start. And as we saw with Nashville, which a lot of people nationwide mocked, a lot of people, go back and check the tapes. Nashville's not very good. Nashville doesn't have anything. Nashville. No. Been in the playoffs both years. They knew what they were doing. They didn't have the resources that they were going to spend in this way. They were building a stadium. Well, now they've got a team that is a contender in the Western Conference, and you're opening your stadium this year. I would assume they might be able to start spending even more if they want to. And they didn't go out and break the bank. What'd they do? Sat down with their manager. They figured out what he wanted, what he needed. They prioritized one position group that we've talked about on this show since the beginning, the holding midfield. Gary Smith probably has a membership in the Holding Midfielders Appreciation Society because what did he do? He went and spent a lot of allocation money on Anibal Godoy. Oh, it's too much money. That's crazy. That's insane. Dax McCarty. Oh, that's nuts. Why would you do that? Because it gave you a platform to build off of. I don't know what Charlotte's platform is. I have no idea. It's supposed to be the wingers, but they got 1.5. They don't have anybody to play the position. It's just insanity. So we'll see. Yes, at some undetermined point in the future, they will fix this. Maybe it's in a couple of months before this window closes. Maybe it's in the summer. Maybe it's next year. Maybe it's 5 years down the road. So if that's the take, if that's the route we want to go to be right, sure, yeah, they'll fix it eventually. But probably people are going to lose their jobs because they didn't do it originally. Because this is the worst roster build for an MLS expansion team ever, because it's not even complete. It's not even complete. Minnesota was bad,
but they had an idea.
What did they?
The Scandinavian variant.
No,
the idea was to give up a lot of goals.
No, they didn't go and sign every Scandinavian. They signed a handful of Scandinavians. That was not an idea. That was just who they signed. They didn't
also
really
whatever
have an idea.
Also whatever blood curse that Inchie put on the striker position in Minnesota.
Yeah, Minnesota at least filled out the roster sheet. I'll give them that. That's a leg up on Charlotte. They at least had bodies in place. Some of those bodies didn't make it past a few games, but anyway. Cincinnati was just bad all the way around, but again, at least they had a roster
Joseph
to work
in his
with.
Sleep. Every time he closes his eyes, Vadim Demidov surely sees Joseph Martinez in his sleep.
Yeah, probably
running past him.
Mm-hmm.
Probably. We'll see if Charlotte ends up with somebody that doesn't play after week 2 or 3 and is forced to train on the side for the rest of the year because they can't find anywhere else for that player to go. Don't know if Charlotte has a player like that. Sorry, Vadim, but we'll see.
You were the captain and you only played like 4 games before they put you on the sideline.
Well, he shouldn't have made him the captain, but anyway, that's not on him. That's unfair to Vadim. Come on. He got put in a bad situation. I don't think Charlotte can afford to put anybody training in the barn off to the side because they need him to fill out the roster.
They need him to be there.
They need him to sit there at the end of the bench in case people get sent off.
I mean,
unless you're gonna put the third goalkeeper in up top, which you might have to. Can Cisniega play as a number 9 in a pinch? Are we a D3 college team? Good grief.
I'll check on his career in college.
Yeah, he hasn't. Go ahead.
I mean, if I'm Miguel Ángel Ramírez, I am taking a notebook that's got names on it that I want. I'm walking into the technical director's office, and I'm slamming it down on his desk going, I need these guys.
You think he hadn't done that? You think he hadn't done that already?
After yesterday, reinforcing it is what I'm saying.
Yeah, well, he reinforced it by dropping the F-bomb about his roster build.
Yeah, it's like, okay.
That was pretty enforcing by
yesterday.
Yeah, that's pretty strong.
And to your point, Jason, I think you're spot on with your hot take. I think that if Miguel Ángel Ramírez goes in again, it's like, look, I wanted these guys in the first place. Let's go round 2. Bang, on the desk. Bring in these guys so we can fill out this roster so I can at least try to make chicken salad out of what you've given me so far. And it doesn't go the way that he's looking. I think you're right. I think that if there's a situation in the international offseason in the summer, he'll walk. He's out. Because I don't think there's no way he was promised not having enough wingers. There's no way he was promised that he wasn't going to have enough guys to sit on the bench on a match day. He said what he said for a reason. It was absolutely calculated on his part that this build has been total and utter nonsense. And he has gotten no help in this whatsoever. And he's having to make chicken salad out of what the front office in Charlotte has given him so far.
I think where you're wrong, John, is that yesterday was the round 2. He's not going to go back in and say the same things over and over again to the people above him who are supposed to be getting these deals done. He did that yesterday. He gave his assessment of their work, and it wasn't a glowing assessment.
Mm-mm.
It was not. It was not fit for afternoon television. It was that kind of an assessment.
It's like, let's try this again here.
No. That's where, honestly, John, I think you're wrong. I don't think there is any, let's try this again. I think that was the last straw. Let me just ask both of you, because you guys follow all the sports, everything. Have you ever in your lives heard a coach manager 2 weeks before opening day, when asked what the fans can expect, talk about the team, say they still need to get some guys, and right now they're effed? Have you ever heard any coach in any sport, in any league, give that assessment about what he's got to work with 2 weeks before opening day?
Probably John McKay with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Do you remember it? Are you making that up?
Mm-mm. No, but I'm trying to remember. It was like in season.
That's in season. That's different. Yeah. I'm talking about 2 weeks before the thing even starts. Not an expansion team just necessarily. Any team ever in your career, John Nelson, in your life, Jared Smith, have you ever heard this? Because I don't remember ever hearing it.
No, I remember McKay's quips in season, but before a season started.
That's different.
The closest I think I got in my head was there was 1 year during where the Braves were coming out of their rebuild, where someone asked Freddie Freeman about the season. And he basically, paraphrased and was like, we better be better, because he's tired of losing. And he knew the teams that they had been putting together in the years before that had not been good. And it was a very blunt, very blunt, I guess is the word I would use. Like, you better be better, because I'm tired of losing.
I'm gonna since we're on a roll, we got 10 minutes before Mike joins us. I pulled up the July 8th, 2021 article from Charlotte's website. Miguel Ramirez looks forward to playing the most entertaining soccer in MLS. When asked how he would describe his playing philosophy in one sentence, Ramirez said, "I want to be the protagonist on offense and defense." Next paragraph talks about overwhelming by creating overloads by outnumbering opposing defending players. By default, the opposing defensive players are going to outnumber Charlotte's attackers because they don't have any. Literally, they don't have any. Not quality, they just don't have any.
You're holding the Hornburg courtyard here, Charlotte. Good luck. Everybody else is an army of 10,000 Urukai marching from Isengard.
It's a good thing that they said he's a flexible, adaptable coach who doesn't have a set-in-stone formation, because he doesn't have the players to play a formation that he would like to play. He's got to be flexible. He's got to play players out of position. Cisniega, number 8, do it. Talked about possession, wanting control of the ball, which absolutely at Independiente del Valle, most often in a 4-3-3. Versatile strikers and wide wingers, but not so traditional fullbacks. Well, he's got 4 traditional fullbacks. I don't know Adam Armour enough to tell you how traditional he is. And he doesn't have a lot of versatile strikers and wide wingers. He's got 1 winger. 1. Mackenzie Gaines is half of 1 because he was a forward. This is what Charlotte laid out in July. I don't think the general manager read it. Just saying. I don't know. Look, I got nothing, but I feel bad for Charlotte fans. I feel bad for our friends who are commentating on these games because they're going to struggle early on, literally because they have a small roster. 2, because they don't have a roster with enough depth in position groups. They don't have some positions filled. And 3, and this was the question I asked a while ago, I don't know who the impact player is for this team. I can assume Anton Walks could wear the armband for this team. No problem with that at all. You got veteran leadership in Harrison Awful. That's great. Christian Fuchs, that's great. Awful knows the league. Fuchs has won a Premier League title. Great stuff there. Who's going to go win you games? Jordy Reyna can occasionally. Vinicius Melo's a teenager. Swiderski, we got to see. Titi Ortiz, okay, maybe that's one. Maybe. But he's got to have some help. And there just isn't. There just isn't. I hope. I mean, and I've read some of the reports that Chris Hegart has been impressive so far in preseason. He's a college guy. He was a homegrown signing that got his rights out of Seattle. He was at Georgetown. How many guys straight out of college come in and impact the team? Not many. Not many. It happens. It happens. But not many. And not many in that kind of a role in the central midfield pulling the strings. So, good luck, I guess. I mean, this is going to be a dogfight. People wanted an hour on Charlotte, Jarrett. They got it.
Yeah, and as we run that hour down, and I'm going to make way for Mike Conti. I just want to get this off out of the way too, because as I've seen people ask about it, and I'm sure you'll get into it in hour 2. Whether or not I'm here remains to be seen for that. Man, I'm really tired of the Ted Lasso comparisons and the American coach.
You said it. I didn't have to say it this time. Thank you.
Yep. Bye.
No, literally, it was what? Wait, what?
Oh, I thought you said bye. Oh.
Jeez, John.
Damn.
I thought that was his parting shot, and he said bye.
No.
No, I'm talking about the.
Jared, he tried to kick you out of the show.
Yes, he did. I'm talking about the stuff out of Manchester United.
Oh, that's just ridiculous.
Chris Armas being compared to Ted Lasso. I mean, is this a matter of they think he's not tactical? I want to know. I want a background on that. No, push on it. Push on them and ask him why. It's like, oh, he's like Ted Lasso. Why? Tell me why.
Why?
Is it because he's American? Is it an accent thing? Is it a matter of you don't think he is tactically sound? No, elaborate on that. Because if this comes back to American guy comes over to England and decides to coach, miss me with all that crap. If this is, you think it's issues tactically, expand on it.
Yeah, and ask.
But it's
Ralph
a lazy
Rangnick
damn take, and I'm.
It was a low hanging.
We ran into the same crap when you had Bob Bradley in Swansea.
Mm-hmm.
When somebody comes in with a non-accent, and y'all going to get salty about them all the time?
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Look at some of the coaches you have that you keep recycling throughout all of England.
Yes,
they're as regressive as a 5-day-old pot roast.
Yeah.
Oh, great. Cool. You brought in Big Sam one more time just to get Big Sam over the line so you could play the most unappealing game humanly possible so you could stay up and get that sweet Premier League money. Whoop-de-doo.
I'm going to point out a tweet from Christophe Terroir, who I think is 100% dead on. Players are frustrated with David Moyes' methods. You remember that headline. Players are frustrated with Louis van Gaal's methods. Remember that headline. Players are frustrated with Jose Mourinho's methods. I remember that too.
Winning cures a lot of stuff, by the way.
Players are frustrated with Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's methods. I remember that. Mm-hmm. Players are frustrated with Ralph Rangnick's methods. Remember that. Now it's turned to players are frustrated with the American assistant coach who's doing what he's told by his boss, Ralph Rangnick. Mm-hmm. But no, he's Ted Lasso. Ha, 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 ha.
If you keep finding crazy girlfriends and you keep having this conversation every 5 months of, man, my girlfriend's crazy, and it keeps happening every month, it's probably not the girlfriend who's the problem here.
That's on you.
Let me get you a mirror, Man U. And sorry, I know we had a couple people not want to talk about Man U because it hurts right now. I get that feeling. That's how I felt about Celtic last year.
It is. We talked about it, though.
Get a mirror, players.
Yeah.
That's because we're nicer to the Twitch pitch than we are to me, and that's okay. I bring a lot of it on myself.
Yeah, I'll let you have that.
I'm just, oh man,
It's
tired of watching them. I'm just tired of watching this whole concept of that American coaches are goofy circus acts. No, they can do their job.
And not worth our time of day with our game here.
Especially when you keep trotting guys like Big Sam out there.
Mm-hmm.
Like you keep trotting these regressive headhunters out there to just drag your bloated, dead corpse of a team across the line just so they can stay up and get that Premier League money so they can look around and make more bad investments. Good luck.
Mark Hughes. Yeah.
There are so many problems with Manchester United, and I've been clear in saying that I thought Ralph Rangnick was a bad hire. I still think he's a bad hire. Blaming his assistant who is doing what the manager wants. We're doing a bunch of 11v11. This is old fashioned. We need to be working on this. Well, first off, I think Rangnick said that he wanted to improve the defense because it was not very good, and he's done that. Now, they haven't been entertaining in any form or fashion. They haven't been exciting. They haven't scored many goals. That's what I don't really like about what Rangnick's going to do there. But that's a style preference. That's a taste thing. Has he gotten better results? Yeah, he's gotten better results. He's done the job. He had to fix that part first. But going after the American assistant coach is ridiculous and acting like he doesn't know what he's doing. He's not making it up on his own.
He's not the head coach.
Exactly. He was brought there because he understands everything that Ralph Rangnick wants to do. Rangnick hired him to carry out his ideals.
Yeah.
He is. Period. So why are you going at the American assistant coach? Go with the German head coach. Go with him. You don't like what he's doing? Go with him.
Yeah.
Have some guts. Go with the assistant who's doing what he's told. That's gutless.
Mm-hmm.
It is.
And it'll get traction because it's the American coach.
There's that. All right, Jarrett, you leaving us on that, or you got another bomb for us before you go?
No, I'm going to leave you on that for my own sake.
Sure?
I'll try and be back. Yeah, I'll try and be back later in the second hour.
It's a Friday.
We'll see.
Yeah,
well,
it's a Friday. We'll see.
We'll see what happens. We might be talking about Charlotte again. Who knows?
Yeah, we might. Hopefully not.
Anything's possible, Jarrett. We'll see you later.
All right.
Yeah.
All right, John, tell us about our good friends at Lemonize.
The Lemonize service, proud sponsors of everything SDH. QR code over my left-hand shoulder for those of you watching on Twitch. For odor-free, clean, fresh air, one place to go. Lemonize Services deodorizes enclosed spaces like houses, apartments, and condos. They've created a customized solution that eliminizes all organic odors like pet cigarettes or food. Realtors and property managers use Lemonize to eliminate, bet you couldn't guess that, bad odors and to help them sell or rent their homes that much faster. It's a turnkey process that makes it easy to work with realtors and property managers. Kind of the environment. It offers a green way to get rid of odors without any kind of toxic residue, different than our favorite masking agents that we have under the sink in the kitchen that just cover up odors. They don't attack the source and attack the issue. It's a proven scientific formula to destroy odors down to the molecule. Pricing very, very easy. Cubic feet or parts per million. Take your pick, whichever is affordable for you and more affordable for you. Offering results in 24 hours or less. Go to their website if you have any kind of question, frequently asked or otherwise. The website, thelemonize.com. And to let them know that you're catching up with them from the SDH footprint /Atlanta. Thelemonize.com/Atlanta. ELIMINIZE.com /Atlanta. For odor-free, clean, fresh air, a Lemonize service, proud sponsors of everything SDH.
Nicely done.
Figure we end the week on a strong note.
So you were intentionally tanking earlier in the week?
I was building to a conclusion. Building to a good conclusion of our friends at Lemonize. You work your way through the week, you finish strong. And then we come back on Monday, it all goes in all over again, and we just build it back all over again.
That's, a good attempt at a recovery, I guess. We'll take it.
Uh-huh.
The games on Sunday that Mike and I will be calling have moved up a little bit earlier. I think this is partially because they want to get the team back into the ATL as early as possible. 10:30 Eastern time against Chivas and 12:30 Eastern time against Tepatitlan. Both games are going to be streamed on atlutd.com/live. Mike and I will be calling it from here in the Atlanta area. I think we'll be at the training ground, it appears. to call this. So we'll be watching it along with you and talking about it. Hopefully teams wear numbers.
Mm-hmm.
Please wear numbers, guys. Chivas will probably, as we talked about, be playing a lot of guys from their bench, guys from their second team, Tapatio, maybe some guys from their U20 group. Tepatitlan, probably a lot like Celaya because they're in between games. They played midweek this week. They'll play midweek next week. They don't have a game over the weekend. So probably starters about 45, and they'll dip into their second team. They have a second team that plays in the 4th division of Mexican soccer, which is complicated because it's called the Tercera División, but it's the 4th division. It took a while to get my head around that one. I've learned a lot about the lower divisions in Mexico over the past few weeks, digging into first teams, second teams, whether they're Liga MX or Liga de Expansión, which is second division, which doesn't have promotion relegation right now. So it's like USL Championship, but they're expected to reinstitute promotion relegation maybe as early as next year. So people are getting excited about that. And then the kind of reserve/youth system. It's a little complicated, but I think I've got my head around all of it, and I've tried to make sure all of that is in the notes. But that Tercera División, which is actually the 4th division, that really threw me off. Welcome in, Mike.
Hey, guys. Good morning. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good. I just realized I'm on camera today. I didn't mean to do that. I hope I'm
You
not.
didn't mean to? Oh, well, that's
I hope I'm not horrifying the Twitch pitch this morning.
Still on my lines, Mike.
Yeah. How are we doing?
We're
doing?
good.
Happy
We're
Friday.
Good. We're talking about the updated times for Sunday's matches.
Early.
Yeah. Breakfast with 5 stripes.
Yeah. Hey, look, I mean, I'm excited. I mean, it's early, but we're going to be calling a match between Atlanta United and Chivas. And it's probably not going to be Chivas' first choice group by any stretch. But still, I mean, this is really, really cool. And I hope we just kind of take a step back to appreciate this opportunity. You're not in Champions League this year, which is a bummer. But, I mean, this is the kind of opponent that if you were in Champions League, you probably would be playing this type of opponent. So, yeah.
That's the way they've been playing lately.
Well, that's true. But, I mean, it's going to be on an outer field. It's probably not going to be their first choice, but it's still Atlanta United and Chivas. And I'm really looking forward to it. And then, hopefully I know there's a little bit of a technical question about the second match on Sunday. The plan is to stream it, but I know there was a little question about that, but
yeah, I think the concern, and this is maybe playing off a little bit of my time down there, how the first game with Celaya was going to be at the complex they were training at, and after a week of training, the field was very kind of soft. It was getting torn up a little bit, so they moved it to the Estadio 3 de Marzo. I believe they've moved some of the training sessions around this week. Playing 2 games on the same field could be a bit of an issue. And if you guys have ever seen how a TV broadcast would work, the cameras are on one field and it's kind of hard to move them to another field. Right. So if the field is in bad shape, they might only do the 1 game on it. If the field looks like it could get into bad shape, would be the best way to put it.
Exactly. So, I mean, I guess we'll find out Sunday morning.
Yeah.
But,
we might have a long post-game show with updates.
Well, the Tepatitlan thing is that's more of a split squad situation where I'm envisioning. I don't know this for sure, and we have not been told, but I'm envisioning Atlanta United will probably go with a first choice group against Chivas, and will probably go with more of a reserve look against Tepatitlan. That would be my guess.
Yeah, I think it'll be a mix of guys going 75 to 90. Out of the guys who have played in preseason, like Almada might not be at 75. If Moreno or Lennon play, they won't be at 75. If Heinemann or Sosa get up to that point, I don't think they are. I don't think they're that close, but they would be nowhere near 75. So there could be an early sub or 2, and then some guys might be able to finish the 90. But I think most will come out around 75. So there'll be a need for some subs. Those guys might play against Tepatitlan. Like, it could be a situation where you play the last 15 against Chivas and then play 60 or so against Tepatitlan.
Yeah, exactly. But I think it'll just be enlightening for us to see how maybe things have developed over the last week. I think it'll be incredibly enlightening if Thiago Almada plays, because this will be our first look at him in an Atlanta United shirt. And I don't know if it's a guarantee that he will play.
Right.
I'm kind of assuming he will, but I don't know. But it's going to be enlightening. I'm not going to be really fully focused on scoreline or tactics or anything. You're still just trying to build that level of fitness. I do think next Sunday in Birmingham might get slightly more tactical. I
think the difference, Mike, I'm sorry, I want to differentiate here. Like, tactical in terms of dealing with Chivas, there will be zero of that. I think philosophical, though, about the way they play stylistically, that'll be there. And I think it's a lot of the stuff we've talked about this week with the way they press, the way they're trying to build up the play. It won't be tactics specifically about the opponent. I don't think it'll be that way against Birmingham really either. It'll be more about going a step further. The progression in fitness is one, but the progression in style is maybe what we're looking for here. And I think it will be with the ball. Yeah. You know, it started, and Pineda's talked about it, press in terms of losing the ball, winning it back. Okay. I think they got that in pretty good shape right now. They'll continue to build it. I think now it's going to be, what do they want to do when they get to the final third? How do they want to create the opportunities? Is it going to be mostly through the middle? Are they going to try to isolate Araujo off the right? I think those things, maybe we'll see some patterns start to emerge in these games.
Great point. And that does come into, you say philosophy, but yeah, it could be, a simile would be tactics. So yes.
I try to separate it. And I think because and I've seen just the conversation about tactics and then going to formation, which is again, like, you're going to pick and choose that, and it can vary, but you still play the same style. I think right now it's just about enforcing the philosophy and the style and making sure that's embedded in this group. Tactics will come really for Kansas City in terms of, we got to stop Johnny Russell from doing this. We got to stop Daniel Shalhoub from doing this.
Yeah, right. I don't think Pineda and Rob Valentino and Diego De La Torre and everyone on the staff is looking at, hey, 151 is someone that we might need to man mark. I don't. That's, I think, what I mean when it comes to tactics.
Exactly. You're right.
I do think they might do a little video on Birmingham.
Maybe a little.
And the only reason why I say that is, you're going to fly back to Atlanta on Sunday, and then basically you could simulate what a full game week is going to look like next week, because you'll be on the same calendar going into the Sporting Kansas City match. So if they want to come back to Atlanta and do Regen Monday and Video Tuesday to simulate what it's going to be like the following week, they could do that.
You know what? Where I'll tell you, I think they work on tactically against Birmingham. I think it'll be set pieces. I think they'll focus on something like that, because you're not too worried about result there. Like, there's not a player that you got to shut down. There's not a defender that you want to exploit, but I think set pieces will be something that they'll work on tactically that'll kind of simulate how a normal week will go.
Yeah, exactly. So, let's go. I can't wait to see it. I'm really, really eager to see Thiago Almada. Really, really eager. The highlights speak for themselves, obviously, but now, we'll learn how much chemistry can you build in 3 or 4 days with a Luis Araujo and, potentially a Joseph Martinez or an Emerson Heineman. I thought it was enlightening yesterday when Almada said he really does consider himself to be a 10, but someone who could play the 8 or play out on the wing, which matches your scouting report perfectly, Jason. And that, I think, is going to be one of the, not big, like, unresolved questions or anything as though it's a controversy, but just one of the things I'll be eager to see an answer on is, is Marcelino Moreno going to play inside? Is he going to play maybe a little further out towards the flank? Is it going to be reverse and Almada's going to play a little further out towards the touchline? Are they going to be fluid? My guess is that probably will look rather fluid, but we don't know yet. And we're not going to know until we get to see them both play.
So, Mike, let me focus on the left-hand side since we're kind of over there for the moment. And I think that this weekend also continues to give us another window into Andrew Gutman at left back and what we've seen from him so far this winter as we're getting ready for the season. And Tyler Wolff, who's done very, very well so far. Two guys that have been in my stock saddle for a while.
Oh, yeah, yes, thanks. And John, I really hope that they can find a way to get Tyler Wolff meaningful minutes this year, because Tyler Wolff needs to play. And we know that Pineda's really high on Tyler Wolff because he's been talking about Tyler Wolff since day one. And by the way, Gabriel Heinze was also really high on Tyler Wolff, and he talked a lot about Tyler Wolff from day one as well. I hope they can find a way to make this work. And it's not so much to reward Wolff for what he's done this preseason. I think Wolff has earned the opportunity to play more for the first team. It's going to be very tricky to see how they can do that and balance being able to find Wolff playing time, but also not keeping the Ferrari in the garage, and the Ferrari is Almada. I mean, that's a really tricky thing. But I don't think anyone, John, would expect Almada to be more than 75 minutes ready at best for Sunday. So I think Tyler Wolff is going to have an opportunity to play on Sunday. And I think it might be 45-plus minutes on Sunday. His connection with Andrew Gutman has looked really, really good this preseason. And I think Gutman, to your point, John, has also been one of the real revelations of this preseason. I have not seen a drop-off in terms of quality and, resources in the toolbox of soccer for Gutman as compared to George Bell. I think Atlanta United is going to be just fine there. I really do. But he has looked so comfortable this preseason and has played so well with Tyler Wolff. I hope they get a chance to put that on display again on Sunday, and I think they will. By the way, did you get another new microphone, John? Because you sound pristine this morning.
That is Jason and his board operability.
Okay. All right. Yeah, you sound great. Jason, do I need to bring a limiter for Sunday? Like, if I scream, do you want me to bring a limiter?
You're going to scream at 10:30 in the morning again?
I don't see it, but you never know. This is me we're talking about.
That's a good point. Yeah, bring it.
All right, I'll bring it. I don't know how to use it, but we can call in Miller if we need it.
Yeah, it'll be good to figure that out.
A peek behind the curtain. Jason and I are not only calling the match on Sunday, but Jason is the audio engineer on Sunday. So I'm just going to
learn from the best.
I'm just going to show up with a microphone and my notes and talk, and Jason's going to do everything else. This is going to be great.
Basically, something like that.
Yeah.
I am going to make a request because this one story for Chivas that I'm really intrigued by is Macias coming back to the team. He hasn't played yet. They do play Saturday. My guess is he's going to end up playing against Atlanta United. It might be his first game back in a Chivas shirt after his time at Getafe fell apart. He has gone a lot by Jota Macias.
Yes.
JJ. We're calling him Jota Macias.
Okay. I saw that in your Google Doc. I think I put it on my notes over here. Jota.
Yes.
I was kind of envisioning a JJ
you can go there too.
kind of run up, but Jota is absolutely fine.
We can work all of that in.
Well, I mean, that is kind of if this is anything like, do you remember 3 years ago when they were out in California and they played Xolos, and it was a bunch of kids from Xolos, and all of a sudden Cubo Torres pops up and actually scores a goal.
Yeah.
Which is a little ironic. He scored more against Atlanta United than for Atlanta United. He played for Atlanta United. But
have a rim shot on that board, Jason?
He's such a good guy. Like, it's a joke. He's a nice guy. Love the guy. But that was kind of ironic.
Yes.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's one of the, with Jota, for example, that is one of the things that absolutely could kind of surprisingly pop up. What time does Chivas play on Saturday? Do they have a night game or a day game?
They have
6:00 Eastern.
All right, so kind of early evening.
6:00 Eastern tomorrow against Tigres.
And they're at home, so it's
right. Obviously,
for guys on the bench to be able to, if you don't play in that game and you didn't play in the game against Juarez on Wednesday, they'll probably play at least 45.
Right. I mean, well, it's either that or train him, and I'm
Yeah.
sure they'd probably rather play.
They'll get games. Macias, I think, will play. I really do, because I don't see him playing tomorrow because their forwards had a good match on Wednesday. I think they'll probably go with the same group. And it's been one of the big stories in Guadalajara with Macias was just a star for León on loan. Then they bring him back to Chivas. He does well. They move him on to Getafe in Spain, and Getafe rescinded his contract in November.
Mm-hmm.
So he comes back to Guadalajara. They reincorporate him into the squad right before the end of the transfer window. And, okay, we haven't seen him yet because the other guys have actually been performing here lately. They also have a young Mexican-American that they signed right before the transfer window. I can't remember where in California he's from, but you remember about Chivas, they only field players who are eligible for the Mexican national team.
Right.
That is all Chivas will field. If this player, I think it's Mark Cruz, if he elects to play for a U.S. youth national team, Chivas will be like, there's the door. See ya.
Right. Right.
But right now he is eligible, and he's kind of a guy who was in just the American youth system. I think he played for, I want to say San Diego Surf, but brought him in. He was another signing right before the window closed. I kind of expect to see him play.
Yeah. And Burton points out that Hota came back and now actually has a pretty good chance of making El Tri.
He could, because up top they're a mess. So yeah, I mean, this could be the start of the redemption tour for Hota Macias.
So look, nice little test for Miles Robinson and Alan Franco.
Yeah,
if that's what Pineda selects on Sunday. Nice little test. And by the way, I was working on Birmingham a little bit too. Like Birmingham's got, well, given what's going on around here, I got to work ahead. Lordy.
Mike is going to try and figure out how he can actually split himself and split his atoms and get into cloning.
No, it's fine. Oh, I forgot I have a Hawks game tonight. As soon as I hang up, I got to work on that. But no, like Birmingham's got some players. You look at the pedigree of some Birmingham players. I mean, there are a couple ex-MLS guys on that team. There are a couple really, really good USL championship level players on that team.
Can I ask you a question?
Sure, go ahead.
Kind of going back to the first hour of our show this morning. How would you compare Birmingham's roster to Charlotte's?
Birmingham's better.
I kind of think that now.
I'm sorry. Birmingham, I'm looking at Birmingham right now.
Mackie Jope, Enzo Martinez.
Well, Zachary Haribo is a guy we saw in an MLS game against Atlanta United a couple years ago.
Yeah.
I like this Johnny Dean a lot, the kid from Navy.
I do too.
Not a kid, but
he is really fast. I've really liked his game.
And obviously, we know about Mackie Jope. We know a little bit about Anderson Asayadu. Charlotte would not make the playoffs in USL Championship. I'm serious. They would not make right now.
Right now,
today, they would, but they don't have enough players. I don't know how they're going to field a team. Like it reminds me in a way, guys, of Cincinnati's first couple matches in 2019 when they were hard leaning into their USL infrastructure. You had Corbin Bones starting MLS matches for them, and. Just Charlotte right now, I don't know how they're going to get from where they are currently to competitive in 2 weeks.
They're not.
It's going to take a miracle. Now, by the end of the year, could be a totally different situation, and they could rocket this summer in the transfer window. They could rock it.
Maybe.
But right now, today, they're not a playoff team in USL Championship.
I don't really disagree. It's at least Birmingham at this stage of their preseason, which they start later. They can field a full 20-man lineup card.
Yeah,
I don't know if Charlotte can really do that.
Yeah, I mean, Birmingham's short on numbers as well. I mean, don't get me wrong. They right now, just looking at them right quick, they have 17 outfield players and 2 goalkeepers.
Charlotte.
That's 4 less than Charlotte, and Birmingham starts like 2 or 3 weeks later.
Now, look, I mean, Seattle Sounders last year, what were they to start? They didn't drop points to start the year until Atlanta United's match on Memorial Day weekend. Is that correct? I mean, they were a raging inferno to start the season, and I feel like they only had 18 or 19 outfield players on their roster.
But injuries.
Injuries,
and also they still had Rui Diaz and Nuhu, and they still had some really good players. So look, I want Charlotte to get it together and get competitive quickly, because I think the matches that Atlanta United is going to play against them in March and April are going to be very special, big events. Yeah. The last thing I want to see is for it to be completely lopsided, like you're playing Orlando back in 2018. Like that, it's so anticlimactic at that point. I want to win, but I want it to be competitive. And right now, I just don't know how they can go from where they are to competitive in 2 weeks. I don't see it. And LA Galaxy probably comes in there in 2 weeks smelling blood.
Yeah, that's a rough home opener with the LA Galaxy going out and adding Douglas Costa, who there's questions about, but having Chicharito, adding Marky Delgado, which I think is one of the better pickups in the offseason, against a team that is just well, Miguel Ángel Ramírez told you how he felt yesterday, and that's, I mean, I've never heard a coach say that 2 weeks before the season starts. I'm going to be trying. I don't know if the games in Charleston are going to be streamed. They have been in the past. Yeah. But they played 3 games over in Charleston.
Yeah, weren't they even on BN at one point?
Yeah, I think they were on BN Extra at one point. But I have not seen anything specifically about the games this year. I will be hoping that they're streamed, because I'm curious to see how they do against the Battery.
Yeah. Are they only playing the Battery, or is it Carolina Challenge Cup?
It's the Carolina Challenge Cup.
So who else is in it? I'm not
Miami and Columbus, I think.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I mean, we'll see. I mean, I think you're right. It's not going to be accurate to judge Charlotte against Columbus, because that would look pretty one-sided right now. But against the Battery, that might be maybe a better barometer of where Charlotte is. Now, again, fitness, all that comes into play. Charleston is probably more out of fitness than Charlotte right now.
They should be.
So that comes into play as well. But I mean, if Charlotte goes down there and tries and lays an egg, that's going to be a problem.
Ooh, I just, you look at what we've seen from Charlotte, and we had the news around the league with Costa signing yesterday, and we talked about the LA Galaxy, and Mike Josie Altidore said his goodbyes on Instagram to everybody up in Toronto.
Saw that. It's interesting. Atlanta United still needs to find a backup center forward.
There are some updates, a little bit.
Well, true.
It's reportedly getting close with Luca Martinez. Merlo report. Well, it's been reported in Argentina. First off, a little more background on this. The Argentine window is fluid, let's say, and there's been some. It's confusing for me, and I follow it pretty closely. I try to understand all of the ridiculousness out of Argentina. This one's confusing for me. River, for example, reportedly has until February 19th for their window, because they just sold somebody. Mm-hmm. So that's why the talk about Tati Castellanos potentially going to River is valid, even though the Argentine window was supposed to have closed yesterday. Well, as part of that supposed to have closed yesterday conversation, Talleres was trying to get Luca Martinez from Rosario Central. He has reportedly said no, because he wants to come to Atlanta, but they gave Talleres a 24-hour extension to their window. So at the end of the day, today, the team that is chasing Luca in Argentina, it will be out of time. And it sounds like, according to Merlo and others in Argentina, he wants to come to Atlanta, 1-year loan with a purchase option, is what Merlo reported.
So there you go. But, I mean, if something breaks down last minute, again, I think you could do a lot worse than Josie Altidore. I would have to revise my opinions about him a little bit.
He's going to New England.
I know. And that's fine. And that makes total sense. I mean, reunite him with Bruce, and he doesn't have to do a whole lot there. He
And
really
if
wouldn't.
it goes in the summer window, then that gives Josie another runway.
Exactly. Yeah, right, John. Exactly. So it makes a lot of sense. You got a lot of strong personalities on Atlanta United already. I don't know if you necessarily need to inject another strong personality into the group. But, I mean, Martinez is going to be an option. I still would love to see Jackson Conway play himself into a position where the technical staff can't say no to him. And I think, he got off to a pretty decent start in this preseason. I assume we're going to see Jackson probably against Chivas.
Yeah.
But
maybe a little
certainly
bit
against
Chivas.
Tepetit Lawn. So, I'd like to see Jackson go in there and make them say no to him, basically. He, as we talked about earlier, I think he clearly did a lot of work in the offseason, just changing his body a little bit.
Yep.
So the work rate has been there, but he's got to convert his on the field chances and make it difficult for the technical staff to leave him out.
We have an update. Thanks to Johannes. Columbus will stream their Carolina Challenge Cup matches.
Oh,
might be geo-blocked, though.
Okay. But
so,
definitely not on BN if that's the way it's going on.
Yeah.
Like, I remember
Charleston used to do it in-house before BN had it. Charleston would do it from their website.
Am I remembering this right, guys? We were in Avondale a couple years ago, and BN did an Atlanta United Charleston match, and I want to say like Phil Shane and Ray Hudson did the commentary or something like that.
Might have been. It was one of Barco's first games for Atlanta United.
Yeah, I remember Andrew Carlton played the 10, and that was the first time we saw Carlton with the formation of a man bun. And John Nelson had very strong thoughts on that.
Yes, he did.
So, I know they've been on BN before. If Columbus is going to stream it, then my guess is it's probably just being done independently. But doesn't Charleston have an in-house production?
Yeah, they're promoting it as being on YouTube, but I don't know the geo-block function if it exists.
Okay. Yeah, that's a good question.
If Charleston's doing it, it might not be geo-blocked, maybe possibly, if it's on their stuff. But if it's on Columbus's stuff, then it would be. Okay. So that's one of those things I hope MLS changes here at some point.
Mm-hmm. It just doesn't make sense.
No.
Like, again, we're talking – well, and here's why it doesn't make sense. Why are you geo-blocking matches that are either closed door or limited attendance? The whole point of geo-blocking is basically to protect the gate, right? To encourage people to actually turn out and buy tickets as opposed to, just taking the alternative of watching at home.
In theory, yeah.
So, like, we were out in Athens a couple weeks ago. They sold that stadium out. No one else could get in.
Yeah.
Drop the geo-block at that point. But again, I don't know what the legalities and all of that's about. I hope you're right, Jason, in the next deal. It would be good for the league to have every preseason friendly wide open to everyone. Mm-hmm. It's good for the league. It helps build interest.
Yeah.
Yes. And if you have to figure out another way, then there are other ways. Good luck with it. Have fun.
Yes.
Because I'm going to try to watch those games. I'm just saying. I wish I could go up to Charleston, but I'm not going to be able to do it. I was thinking about going up there for one of the days of games. I don't think I'm going to get squirrely and go on Tuesday because there's a doubleheader on Tuesday that I was like, I don't think I'm going to be able to pull it off.
Where are they playing, by the way? Are they at the Citadel or
the same place they've been, Patriots Point? That's where they'll be. They're
Daniel Island's closed now, right?
Yeah.
Like,
all
no
torn
longer
down.
in use. That's a shame.
Sold it. They weren't drawing. I mean, honestly, they'll be in a better business position being at Patriots Point because it just great facility in Daniel Island, but they stopped drawing fans to make that trip to Daniel Island. So they got to get closer to the city. They're in a better place now.
Yeah.
We'll see. We'll see what Connor Casey does in charge of the Charleston Battery this year.
First time in a long time that Mike Anhauser is not on that touch line. Yeah. So, I mean, and I know for you guys, I mean, it's going to be good to scout those matches for a couple different reasons because of the USL Championship implications.
Yep.
Again, just talking briefly about what I saw working on Birmingham yesterday. I'm really impressed. Like, I feel like the gap between Major League Soccer and USL Championship is compressing.
A little bit.
And there still is the gap, obviously. But, I'd say USL Championship now and the quality of players that are playing in USL Championship, doesn't Birmingham have a guy who was first division in Sweden a year or two ago and someone who was first division in Slovenia a year or two ago?
I'll tell you what I think's happening, and this is a good thing for MLS, is it's twofold. You're developing better talent in-house to the academies. So the homegrowns coming up are better and better. And you're bringing in better talent from overseas. So what that's doing is guys who used to be either, starter number 11 in terms of quality or, 12 through 20 on the bench. Some of those guys are ending up in USL rather than playing 10, 12 times a year in MLS. They're playing 30 games in USL and getting paid well to do it.
Yep.
And that's the other side of it is you've got USL Championship teams that are paying those kinds of guys more money than MLS would because they're a starter in USL versus a bench player in MLS. So the overall level has just improved.
No, that's exactly right. That's quite true. And that's a good thing. That's why I think Atlanta United is going to get a good test. But I think Charlotte and Miami and Columbus will get a good test too. And
Charlotte might need a few tests.
Yes.
Everything's going to be a test for Charlotte right now. Let me rephrase. And look, I don't want to sound like I'm just kind of dumping on Charlotte because that's not really what I'm trying to do. I think
hasn't been a good build, Mike.
They haven't done their jobs.
No, but just to be fair, what happened yesterday is not necessarily their fault. Things do break down. You can have a plan that does break down. It's not always the fault of the club when things break down unexpectedly. So now, granted, even if what happened yesterday did not occur, they would still be well behind the 8 ball right now. But, sometimes there are just, stuff happens in soccer. And I want to say maybe just trying to look at it glass half full, maybe that's what happened to Charlotte yesterday.
I would have liked to have done that. I've tried to do that since November. I can't. It's just there's too much that has just been. I'm baffled by what they're doing. We'll see. Yeah. They've got the resources. We know that. They've got a great coach. We know that. I think they're going to have a really good fan base, but they just don't have a full roster right now, and it doesn't really make sense why. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. Before you go, we've got. Hey, we can go ahead and do this. So speaking of Birmingham, we will be at Ghost Train Brewing on Saturday night. If you are going to Birmingham early or you're an SDH listener over in Alabama and you can come join us. We will be there from 4 to 7 Central Time, Birmingham time. 5 to 7 will be the actual show. It will be on Twitch. We should have at least one Birmingham Legion representative with us as well, which will be pretty cool. Their supporters group, the Magic City Brigade, will be hanging out with us. If the weather's good, we're going to be outside on a stage, which will be great.
And I think it's supposed to be, right?
Yeah, I think so. So you guys are getting the breaking news before it goes out. That is official, thanks to Scott Flood of the Flood Project.
Out on my calendar.
Okay.
John, do you carry that everywhere? Do you actually carry that with you places?
So I can do things like this.
Just put it in your phone, man.
I do, but look, I'm the kind of guy that likes books. There you go. I like books, and I like turning pages, and I like the idea of completing a book, putting the book away, and starting the next book. And so it gives me the idea where I can cross things off on a calendar when I can do stuff like this. The days are done. We're, the doctor's appointment on the 4th, that's gone away. Mm-hmm. All of this stuff here where we've done this week, we're good. So now we're here to the 11th. I've crossed off a lot of stuff here in February to get to this point. I just like doing it.
That knocking is the 21st century trying to catch up to you, John.
No, it's over here. So the office suite next to ours, they're tearing everything out and redoing it. And they've decided to get the handsaw and the hammer out. So that might be
That's probably a good sign to let you go.
Yeah, I might have to go, guys. I'm sorry. Hey, see you at 10:30 on Sunday, atlutd.com/live, okay?
Thanks, Mike.
See you guys.
Let's get Jarrett back in the mix. I thought that might have been you banging on the door trying to get in, Jarrett.
Get rid of Mike. That's Jared on the wall.
How do you know it wasn't?
I don't.
How do you know I'm not in the studio next to Mike? You don't know.
I don't. Mike
Actually,
said it wasn't. Just saying.
How does Mike know?
Mike knows a lot.
Mm-hmm.
This is true.
That's fair to say. I'm still baffled by John's calendar thing, but anyway, one bit of throwback Atlanta news. This is pretty cool with friends of the show, Mississippi Bria, out in. Oh, what town are they in Mississippi, John?
Is it Clinton, Mississippi?
Clinton, that's right. They have hired Matt Horth as their head coach of the USL League Two team, former Atlanta Silverbacks leading scorer, spent some time with the New England Revolution and MLS. Had awful luck with an injury at just the absolute worst time to his knee, and it was a struggle for him to get back on the field and be what he used to be. Yep. He was immense here in Atlanta, coming from Gordon College. No expectation of him. Incredible hard worker, really good guy. I had a chance to catch up with him. He was coaching Gordon College. They played Oglethorpe a couple years ago, and Matt was one of the hardest working guys that the second version of the Silverbacks had, and earned himself a contract with the New England Revolution and just didn't get an opportunity. That was, I want to say 2012 or 13 when they were pretty good, and just he never got the shot. He got loaned out a little bit. Then he got hurt, and he came back to the Silverbacks. Wasn't quite the same, bounced around a little bit. Spent a little bit of time in Iceland as well playing. But turned into a coach, has been coaching at Gordon College, and now he's going to be the coach in Mississippi. Very cool.
Very, very cool.
Did you write it down in your calendar to try to check in with Matt Horth, John?
I hadn't quite gotten to, and that's not a calendar, right?
That's not a calendar update.
That's the
legal pad update or a notebook update.
Spiral notebook update is where that.
What's
is.
the difference between the spiral notebook and the legal pads for you?
Legal pads are like for just note taking in the show, but since I don't have any legal pads at the moment, it's another spiral notebook. So literally, as we're talking about things, and I'll think of things to ask, it goes into this notebook here. Otherwise, this would be a legal pad. But when it comes to show prep, editing, phone calls, and all that, this is the notebook I was talking to Bart about in the Twitch pitch, and it's off to my left, and I can sit here and cross things off. And so the goal by the end of the week, it's all of the phone calls and the appointments that we have on the right-hand side, and then show times and editing on the left-hand side. And so the idea is to have everything crossed off. So by like mid-afternoon on Friday, I can take this piece of paper, rip it off, throw it away, and plot the next week and go Monday through Friday. And I do it like old school. Jarrett, you do it
old school. That's crazy.
I know, but like old school scripting when it comes to writing news, where you'd have left-hand side, right-hand side. Yeah, I literally, it's like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. It's all blocked off. So
A block, B block, C block.
Exactly. So yeah, it literally is all done like that. Yes, that is true.
All right.
Jason is broken by this. This is fun. I like this.
No, I don't like it.
That's a you problem.
It's ridiculous.
So yes, I will check in with our friends Mississippi Bree and see if we can catch up with Matt Horth for a 1v1.
Thank you. Cade Cowell signed a new long-term deal with the San Jose Earthquakes. Jarrett, your thoughts?
Cade Cowell and in New York who just came back.
Caden Clark.
Thank you. Caden Clark. Both of them, man. Charlotte, go get either one of them.
I can't get them. They don't have enough allocation money. That's what they say anyway. Remember that Paul Arriola was too expensive for them.
Yes, that is true. That's what they said.
Yeah.
LAFC
acquired Ryan Hollingshead. They made a good defensive trade. They swapped out left back Marco Farfan. So left back swapping places, Dallas and LAFC. Hollingshead is from California. It sounds like LAFC made a really good opportunity for him and his family to get closer to home. Nico Estevez, the manager of Dallas, they released a video, really cool to see them do this, of kind of Ryan's last comments to Dallas. He's been there for a long time, 193 games, 149 starts. And one of the things that was said was LAFC kept coming for Hollingshead, and they made an offer that was too good for Ryan not to take and too good for the club not to take. And they get a defender who was a starter last season in Marco Farfan. So they get younger. Hollingshead, for me, though, is maybe the best or one of the best left backs in the league, and he just doesn't get enough credit for it. He was a utility guy when he first came to Dallas. I know Oscar Pereja loved him because he could play anywhere. It's turned into a really good left back. He's 30 years old. He's still got plenty of miles left in him. This helps LAFC a lot. I still want to see what this back line turns into, but Hollingshead, you're getting a top guy in the league at his position. I just don't know what the personnel is going to be, because you have Hollingshead, you have Diego Palacios already at left back, who's very good. Mohamed Traore is a teenager that they're high on. On the right side, you've got Escobar, you've got Kim Moon Hwan, Julian Gaines, young guy they're high on. Center backs, Escobar can play center back. You got Eddie Segura, who's good. Mamadou Fall came out of nowhere last year. You've got Jesus Murillo. Ibiaga is a reserve. I don't know what the starting four is, but I think it's going to be better than it's been because you've got a lot of quality. I just don't know which grouping you get. The chemistry is the part they're going to have to figure out. If it's Segura and Fall and Escobar and Hollingshead, okay, that's a good backline. That's a good backline in this league. And Maxime Crépeau in goal, that's big upgrades for LAFC. And if Tajori Shradi can give them, I think, more than at least a regular winger, Vela can stay healthy. Brian Rodriguez is motivated and plays like he did last year. Okay. This is a pretty good group. The holding midfield with Kellen Acosta in there now, with Ilie in there, Janela, Cifuentes. It's not so much you don't have quality in certain positions anymore, which in the past I don't think they did. It's what's the grouping going to be? What is Cherundolo going to put on the lineup sheet? What's he going to get out of this? Where does Vela play? Is Vela going to play wide instead of Tajori Shradi? Does that mean it's Cifuentes, Janela, and Kellen Acosta? Or is it Cifuentes, Ilie, and Kellen Acosta? Like, what is the personnel grouping going to be? They've got the talent to be among the best teams in the West. We'll see if Cherundolo can be a good enough manager to get them there. And we'll see if he can find the right chemistry, because that's the question I have at this point is chemistry. You know, what are the little societies on the field going to be? Because they have the personnel defensively that Jarrett, I don't think they had in the last couple of years. I think they finally do. Fall's a teenager, but Mamadou Fall showed last year that he's a guy that you probably want in the team, and Eddie Segura's solid. They finally solved that center back issue, and now they've added Hollingshead, who's really good.
It's been impressive. This is something. It's funny. It's something we've talked about with LAFC for so long. It was, hey, that offense is great. Can you stop people, especially in the playoffs when defense ratchets down? Get back to you on that. It's never been an acceptable answer. Now it seems like it might be. And maybe the offense comes crashing back down. Well, not crashing. Maybe it comes back down to earth a bit. They're still going to get productivity because they have a real striker now. They still have you still have Vela. And Vela, I think, will start to slip a bit. I don't think it'll be fast necessarily, but it'll start to slip. I don't think he's going to put together another, legendary greatest season we've ever seen kind of thing, but he's still very dangerous.
You could say he's already slipped. I mean, it's been more injury related, but still, that's part of getting older.
Yeah, and I'm more inclined to, I want to see him play a whole year to see how he does for a whole year. I'm hoping he can stay healthy because he has a lot of fun when he's on the field.
Yeah.
He's a lot of fun to watch. Now, as far as everybody else is concerned, like, you've made changes in the midfield. Let's see what it looks like. Let's see what kind of approach you get from a young coach and a chance to kind of, act two of yourself if you're LAFC.
Look, this is where things get interesting out there because Nashville come into the West. LAFC should be a playoff team. If they're not, Cherundolo's not back next year, I don't think. LA Galaxy should be a playoff team. They were 30 seconds away last year. Who's missing out? because that's 3 new playoff teams in the West. I think RSL missing out is a safe bet.
Vancouver.
Minnesota.
Vancouver could miss out. Minnesota could miss out. That might be the 3. It might be 3 for 3 right there. Portland is one you got to watch. And no Diego Valeri, although he didn't play a huge role last year. Looks like they're going to get Sebastian Blanco back, but they're not going to have Andy Polo. They terminated his contract yesterday. Really weird situation with some of the different things that have come out about an incident from May of 2021 that the Timbers knew about. They say that they deeply regret not suspending Andy Polo immediately, especially considering the troubling new details of abuse that surfaced this week. They exercised the option on his contract coming into 2022. So, and the sense, again, that they said now that they were previously aware of a dispute on May 23rd of 2021. That was right after Andy Polo got injured in that tackle against the LA Galaxy. That citation, and the Timbers do point out, and it's correct, that citation at that point was not subsequently pursued by the victim or the prosecutor's office. But still, they knew that happened, and they did not do anything at that time. They re-upped with him. They picked up his option, and now, after more, they've let him go. Terminated his contract. So that's a player you've got to replace. That's a player you've got to deal with. And Portland, I thought last year was kind of at the end of the cycle. If they get, as I go to my spiral notebook, if they get the performances out of Jimmy Chara that we saw last year, Jimmy Chara, Dairon Asprilla, it seems like as the year gets later, he gets better. But Santiago Moreno is the one that I keep looking at is, can he step up and be that guy? If he can, then you can replace Andy Polo, no problem. You got to figure out, is it Mora? Is it Nishgoda? Are they doing forward by committee again? I think it probably should be Mora. I do. Maybe that creates an opportunity to move Nishgoda if you want to do that. David Ayala, we've talked about coming in from Estudiantes in Argentina. Diego Chara is the ageless wonder. He found the fountain of youth that Ponce de Leon was looking for so long. He found it. He's not telling anybody where it is. You'll get Eric Williamson back. Paredes is still there. I don't know, unless it's Blanco coming inside to play the 10, like kind of who that playmaker is in the way that they've played generally, or if we see something completely different from Giovanni Savarese. They did also do a new deal with Jose Carlos Van Rankin of Chivas. He's back on a permanent now. It's a good pickup. I liked him. Claudio Bravo, I really like on the left side. Goalkeeper is going to be different too. No Steve Clark anymore. I believe they are pointing to Ivacic, I think, as the guy who's going to be the starter. They do have David Bingham there with his experience. They've got a couple of young guys in Justin Vom Steeg and Hunter Sult. But goalkeeper, I think they can upgrade from Clark. I do. I wasn't ever all that high on Steve Clark, but I don't know if they do have the upgrade for Clark. I have questions about Portland. If you told me today that they don't make the playoffs this season, I wouldn't be shocked. I wouldn't be blown away by that. Can they stay ahead of Minnesota? Can they stay ahead of RSL? Can they stay ahead of Vancouver? I think that's what they're trying to compete with. And one of them could knock Portland out, because I think the 2 LA teams, and I think Nashville are competing for top half of the playoff picture. I think Colorado will fall out of that top half. I think Kansas City probably will, but let's see what they do up top. They're reportedly close to bringing in a forward to replace Polito, who's out injured. I think Seattle is the other one that'll be competing for the top half. But if it's Seattle, Nashville, the 2 LAs, that's your top 4. Then it's Kansas City, Colorado, and then spot 7. That is a fight to the finish between Portland, Vancouver, Minnesota, RSL. Whew. The West could be a lot of fun this year.
Yeah. I mean, if we lay out the top 6 as you've just laid them out, you're looking at 4 or 5 chasing after that 7 spot, and with the improvements of the folks that were below the playoff bar last year that we're thinking are going to be above it this year, my first thought was Minnesota was not going to make the playoffs at all because of everything that we've been discussing. And that was the first place that I was drawn to was Minnesota. And, can RSL repeat? And RSL,
Minnesota's a better team than RSL. I think they're a better team than Vancouver. I think if you're talking about the first thought of who's not making it, it's RSL. It's not Minnesota. Now with 3, though, Minnesota is going to be on that border. But no, I think they're the head of the group of teams that were in last year that could miss out this year. I think they're at the top of that. They just have the talent to be there. They do. You think RSL or Vancouver is more talented?
No, I'm not. I wasn't.
If you do, that's fine.
No, I was raising my eyebrows about Adrian Heath. I wasn't raising my eyebrows about.
That's not what I said. That's not what I said. And then, okay, do you want to play that game? Because then we're talking about somebody in their first full year in Santini in Vancouver. We're talking about Pablo Mastroeni, who took Colorado to a Western Conference final, who had a great run with RSL. Tactically, philosophically, I mean, there's got to be some upgrades there because we haven't really seen a ton. And you're talking Adrian Heath. So, I mean, I don't think it's like, Adrian Heath, terrible. When you're comparing the teams he's competing with, now, if you want to put Portland in that mix, I think Giovanni Savarese's head and shoulders above those other managers we just mentioned.
Agreed.
But I don't think Adrian Heath is head and shoulders below Mastroeni or Santini.
But I would maintain that Heath has done less with more, where Santini and Mastroeni have done more with less.
Sure. Santini's got no track record. I would not say that about him just yet. He had half a season. And frankly, Vancouver's not bad. Not bad talent-wise. I don't think they're quite Minnesota. I think they're better than RSL. I think he probably did about what he should have done. Probably did what Mark Dos Santos should have done.
Mm-hmm. That.
But no, I'm not an Adrian Heath fan. I think when we talk about hot seat, he's probably the first one on it, Jarrett, because not just of who he is and what he's shown and all that, but how long he's shown what he's shown. He's not in the same situation as a Mastroeni or a Santini who have just gotten there. Gio will get the opportunity to walk when he wants to walk, I think, at Portland. I don't think he'll be pushed out. Adrian Heath has to start the season as the closest to the hot seat, I would assume.
Yeah, I would think so. I mean, that makes the most sense that he would be the guy who's going to be up against it just because of, you're a team that 2 years ago, you were 10 minutes away from MLS Cup, in which you'd have felt really good about yourself going up against that Columbus team, especially the way things that were going for them. And then a year later, you backed into the playoffs. And it was really up and down all season long. And now you have Nashville to contend with.
Mm-hmm.
Whew. And if you don't make the playoffs, because it's not like, oh, we didn't make the playoffs this year and we made them last year and it was great. No, now it's a matter of, hey, we didn't make the playoffs. This experiment's going on year 6 and we got close that one time and now we've started to backslide. And yeah, it might be time to shake it up.
How many managers have been in their role longer than Adrian Heath in MLS?
3. 3 in the West.
None.
That you are incorrect, Jarrett. You're not quite close enough. John, what you said was incorrect. You didn't finish.
Vermes for one.
Peter Vermes is the longest serving manager right now. Was appointed on August 4th, 2009.
Schmetzer?
Schmetzer is third, July 26th, 2016.
So we're looking for,
because I think the length of time they've been in the job affects their potential closeness to a hot seat.
Yeah.
And I don't think Vermes or Schmetzer are anywhere near hot seats.
No. And I would have thought that Gio would have been the other one.
Gio was appointed about a year after Adrian Heath, December of 2017. He is 5th on the list.
Okay.
So Heath is 4th. You're missing who's second, though.
Right, and I'm trying to figure out who is
through that.
Yeah.
Is it Curtin?
It is Jim Curtin, June of 2014.
Wow.
Yeah, not a lot of people have been in their roles a long time. Matias Almeida's after Savarese, October of 18. And he's
because remember, Matias Almeida was a guy we were looking at when we were convinced that Tata was leaning out the door.
It had already broken that Tata was being linked to the Mexico job at that point. I think that was September. Actually, the news broke when we were in San Jose, and it was Steve Ralston who was the interim at that point in San Jose. And Almeida got the job about a month later. Caleb Porter's next. Bruce Arena's next, and it feels like he hasn't been at New England very long.
I know.
Josh Wolf was hired in July of 2019. He's next, way before Austin got on the field. You talk about hot seat for this season. This will probably be our last topic of the day. So we'll go in reverse order. Vermes, no, nowhere near it. Curtin, no, nowhere near it. Schmetzer, no, he might win an MLS Cup this year. Adrian Heath, yes.
Mm-hmm.
Giovanni Savarese, potentially. I don't think so. I mean, he's gotten them to the Cup twice. He won the very prestigious MLS's back tournament.
He's earned the right to leave. You know,
I think he'll leave on his own, is what I'm saying. Like, I don't think he is in a hot seat situation. I think he'll leave on his own. Some people in Portland have never warmed to Giovanni Savarese. I don't understand them at all. I think he's a guy that you would absolutely play for, and he's done a good job with that group because he's gotten them in 18 and 21. I could see him leaving soon, but I don't think it will be getting fired. Right. And when we talk hot seat, we're talking fired.
Yeah.
I'm kind of the same way with Almeida, to be honest, even though, you know, he's going into the last year of his contract. I think he's a guy who would walk in the summer, potentially, if a Mexican job opens up that he wants, or an Argentine job, because he hasn't been down in Argentina in a while. He might leave early, but I don't think he'll get fired. I think both sides might agree to let him out of his contract early, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does.
That's the scenario I kind of see playing out.
Mm-hmm.
Caleb Porter is next. A bad year last year. They won in 20. I don't think he's near a hot seat. I would not think that at all. Good, Uncle. It might be some of the online. It might be some people outside of Portland. Uncle said I don't hear anything bad about him from people I speak to here in Portland. And there was for a minute there. Maybe it calmed down with the run last year. Maybe it's more people on the outside trying to create that drama. Like, you never see that happen. That's crazy talk. Caleb Porter in Columbus, I don't think is near the hot seat. Bruce Arena, no way. He'll get to pick in his time when he wants to retire. Josh Wolf, I don't think he should be.
No.
Of course, the hashtag out people got going in Austin last year with an expansion team. That was much better constructed than the team up the road in I-85, just saying. And wasn't constructed super well either, by the way, but it's a lot better than what we're seeing.
It may or may not have been the worst team in Texas last year, but that's
may or may not. It may not have been.
No,
it's a battle.
And I went over this with Tab Ramos about this time last year that I thought Tab Ramos could be, on the hot seat, even though he didn't necessarily deserve to be, because that
new owner, you kind of want to make a splash, all that kind of stuff.
But man, that team in Houston was not great. He was
that situation where he didn't have a lot to work with, but he also didn't really get anything out of it either. There wasn't a glimmer of, okay, if we give him more, then we'll get more. There wasn't enough to see that.
Yeah.
That's the disappointing thing. I expected more from Tab, but I also expected him to have more to work with too. So it might have just ended up being the best situation for everybody involved.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Dallas is going to be an interesting case study this year, and because they decided to spend money.
They have, and we're
going to see what that looks like. And you know what though? I hope to God that if it doesn't work, they don't get spooked off of it.
Yeah, I hope so too. I would hope not. I think the business is shifting, and I think Dallas is finally catching up a little bit to that. Robin Frazier's next. Nah, he's great in Colorado. No worries. Gary Smith is next. No worries. Gary Smith might be the most underrated manager in MLS.
Yeah.
He is the most disrespected manager in MLS for where he should be. Got an MLS Cup ring to his name. He's done great work with Nashville. Gary Smith should be in those manager of the year conversations, and he just never gets there. I don't get it. Oscar Pareja's next. That's an interesting one, maybe.
New ownership group, lack of patience, wanting to turn everything over. I could see it.
Well, but okay. But, John, when you say that, then you're saying Orlando's not going to be very good this season. And
I'm talking about the expectation level of a new ownership group wanting their own guy, regardless of, if things start
else, he might be bumping up against his ceiling.
No, and that's possible. But what I'm saying in terms of him being on a hot seat, I don't think Oscar Pareja's near a hot seat. Could he be bumping up against the ceiling of what he can do? Absolutely, he could. He's got a team that should be competitive. Should be. Facundo Torres, outstanding talent. I've mentioned Vander Vader a million times. You brought everybody back defensively that I would assume you believe in. The forward.
And you got rid of the crazy guy.
Yeah. I think that's going to help them.
Who provided goals, don't get me wrong, but also may have contributed to the temporary insanity that team would fall into sometimes.
Yeah. He was the league leader in mental walkabout that was detrimental to your team.
Yeah, might be overstating that just a little, but yeah, I think they'll be better without Nani. I do. Midfield, Pereira is getting a little bit up there. Can he give you another top season as a 10? I like Mendez a lot. I like Junior Urso a lot. I do want to see Cesar Araujo a little bit. I'm not sure what his level is going to be coming in. I do like Andres Pereira a lot too, and it seemed like he kind of disappeared a little bit last year. They're not very deep. That's the thing that worries me about Orlando, to be perfectly honest. We talked about depth with Charlotte, so let's be fair here. Orlando's got 3 goalkeepers. They've got 4 outside backs, so you've got 1 cover on each side, and for Huon, it's Michael Halliday, who's a young, unproven player. Kyle Smith can play on either side. I like Kyle Smith as a reserve. You got 4 center backs, 3 with experience. You've got 6 central midfielders. You're going to play 3 of them. When you're talking about the depth past the guys I mentioned, Joey Desart, which I think was a really good draft pick out of Wake Forest for depth. You got 3 wingers. You're going to play 2 in the 4-3-3, I would assume. Benji Michel could be a forward too. I look at him as a winger more than a forward. And you got 3 forwards. So it's not a lot of players here. 11, 15, 17, 20, 23. It's the same number as Charlotte. So an injury or 2, and Orlando could be a little bit of a problem. And that's where I think what you said, John, is important. I don't think coming in Pareja is near a hot seat. He shouldn't be. He's done things that no Orlando manager had ever done. They're good. They've been good. But you get a couple of injuries, Pareja might pay the price for not being a team that's very deep because new ownership wants to make a splash and bring in a new guy. I think he might get pushed out unfairly in that. But I'm also with you, Jarrett. Like, this might be just kind of the level he's at. A very good manager, but maybe not an elite guy. We'll see. I think this is a better I think with Torres and Vander Vader instead of Nani and Mueller, this is better. Now, I don't know up top with no DK, who they didn't have for all that long, to be honest. And Ersan Kara, I don't know if that is going to be enough. That's the one that I have the question about. We've talked about players coming in from different places, and is he a designated player forward? Is he a guy that can win things for Orlando in a very competitive Eastern Conference? What do you think it takes? Because, Pereira's not going to get fired midseason. What kind of a finish do you think it takes for that seat to get hot? Is it missing the playoffs, or is it just finishing low in the playoff order?
I think it's missing the playoffs, but I think it's also how it's done personally. Yeah. Because we've talked about this with him where he gets really pragmatic and really defensive later in the season. He'll start out here on fire. They're not playing in a reckless way, but he starts out on the front foot, and it's really fun and really exciting. And then it just kind of coasts, and then it kind of turtles.
then he
So-
gets worried, and he did it with that great Dallas team in 16 as well, and they did win the Supporters Shield. But I've seen this play out a few times, and I know people who took the coaching courses with Perea, so I've kind of paid close attention to him during his time in Dallas and beyond, and it's a weird dynamic. He gets very conservative with his tactics as the year goes on. They get more defensive, and I don't think it's suited his Orlando teams that he's had, and I don't think it suits this one. But I don't know if people are digging that deep to pay that to bring that up to the mix, Jared. Like they should, and it's a minor thing because again, he's not stinking up the joint. But could they get more out of somebody else? That's always the tough call. You gotta improve if you're going to make that move, and it's hard to improve for somebody like Perea because he is very good.
Mm-hmm. And that's the question:
It is.
where do you go and who do you get, Jared?
But that is the thing. It's like it falls into this classic question of if you get rid of a manager, you better have someone better in mind, and you better have them lined the hell up.
If you're going to get rid of a manager like this,
Yeah.
I think is the way to put it.
Well,
because
that's what I'm
there's
talking about.
sometimes
you're not gonna. Yeah, if you fire someone who's just been bad, yeah, of course
Yeah.
you're gonna move on. But if you're getting rid of a guy who might be getting you to the playoffs, you better have something better.
Yeah, that's the one that's tricky, is where it's like we've been okay, we've been good, but we haven't been great. We want to be great. Let's go try to be great. You have to have a plan in that scenario. If it's somebody who's just been bad, then yeah, you got to figure out the plan after you get rid of the problem. That's a different.
Coco, I swear to God, if Orlando goes after Becca Sese, I will go down there myself and fight them.
I am, as I have mentioned, Sebastian Becasese many times over the years. I do think he is somebody who will get a bigger job here at some point. Now, he did kind of have it with Racing, with Independiente first, although bigger job is debatable there because of their financial situations. And then they ran him out really fast, and he went to Racing, where he walked on his own because of all the drama and ridiculousness and board members fighting with sporting directors in front of the team before second legs of Libertadores matches or Sudamericana. I can't remember which. Yeah, he's like, I'm out of here. I'm gone by. And then he went back to Defensa and did really well again and won Supercopa and put a star in the shirt and all that stuff. So he's young. He's really young. But he's got a ton of experience really young. He'll go somewhere else. I hope it's not Brazil. I hope an MLS team does bring him in. I would love to see it. I hope it's not Orlando. I really hope it's not, because then they might be more dangerous. I hope it's not Charlotte if Ramirez runs out the door screaming because he's not happy with what he's got to work with.
Yeah.
But
You think Ramirez is outspoken? Imagine Becca Sese, you gave him that team.
He's been known to get into altercations in the tunnel late in games. It's happened. Anyway, let's move on. Ronnie Dyla's not going anywhere. He's a legend in New York City. He stripped down to his underpants after winning MLS Cup, built him a statue. Gerhard Struber at the Red Bulls. No, he's not going anywhere. He's done a really good job there. I'm not a proponent of the style, but Struber made that team better from day one to the last day last year. Struber's going to continue to build it. Greg Vanney. He shouldn't be.
No,
he shouldn't be. He shouldn't be. But if they don't make the playoffs this year, does he get a year 3 with 2 non-playoff years? I don't think he does. I don't think he does. If they miss 2 years in a row, I don't think he gets a third year.
Well, are we also assuming that everyone is healthy for the entire season and he has the full roster makeup? Because
I don't think it matters. I don't think it matters for the Galaxy, because this is the LA Galaxy we're talking about. How many trophies they got? Missing the playoffs, not part of the equation for the LA Galaxy. That's unacceptable.
Even when you miss the playoffs because pro sucks at their job.
There's that. But you get to the end of this year, you forget how they missed it last year. And I didn't think they would make it last year. But back-to-back years, if they don't, they should. No, understand me. I think they're competing for the top 4 in the West. But if they don't, I don't think Vanny's back. I think that is one that there's not really a hot seat conversation unless they're well out of it throughout the year and then the seat gets hot and then he doesn't come back. I think they'll be competing. It might be something at the end of the year they miss out, or even if they're one and done or get the 7 spot or whatever and it's disappointing, they might go in a different direction. I don't know. That's my gut feeling. Losada's fine, I think, because
he will not be without a job for very long if that happens.
Absolutely. Then he becomes the first guy on the list in MLS. I agree. Hernan Losada, I don't think DC's as good this year as they were last year unless Michael Estrada comes in and bangs in the goals, which he could. I think the East is just going to be too good. I think they know what they have in Losada. I think they're going long term. They're trying to get somebody who can get a lot out of a little bit because they're not going to spend a ton, it seems like.
Yeah.
Or they're going to be inconsistent in how they spend a ton. I mean, they spend a lot of money to pay Wayne Rooney. They've got an option to spend $5 million to bring in Estrada. They've got money to spend if they want to a degree, to give him more to work with. But Losada's a system guy too, so he's got to have guys who fit the way he wants. I don't think he misses out if they miss the playoffs because I don't think they should make the playoffs. So if they do that, then DC's wasted 2 years, which they might do. Look, we've seen it. We had the conversation about teams that when you go to get a system guy, you got to commit to the system, and you got to commit to that way of playing. Red Bulls have committed to the Red Bull way. Philly, Curtin has evolved into that kind of a way. Losada's a system guy. So, Almeida, same thing as San Jose. When they do move on, which I think is some point in 2022 or right after the season, they can't go into a completely different road. It'd be a waste of time. You got to give Losada time. You got to give him more to work with. I don't think they're a playoff team, so I don't think he should be fired if they don't make the playoffs. But I don't know DC's internal expectations. I don't know if they're realistic. That's looking at it from an outside realistic perspective. They might think that they got a playoff team. I don't think they do. Phil Neville, a lot of people have tried to put him on the hot seat from day one. Before he got hired, he was on a hot seat, according to some. I think he did a good job with the ridiculousness that he had to deal with last year.
Yep.
I think they've committed to him for the long haul. I don't expect him to be on a hot seat this year because, again, I don't expect them to be competing for trophies. I don't think they'll be that great, but I think it's the first step, and I think that's why he's there. So I think Neville will be there at the end of the year. I don't think he'll be on a hot seat. Past this, I don't think you're talking about hot seats because you're talking about pretty much new guys. Wilfred Nancy is the last one who started last season. Should have been in the Coach of the Year conversation last year. I thought he did an amazing job taking over in March. Then Ramirez took over in July in Charlotte before they started. He might leave, but that's a different conversation. Then it's Pineda. Then it's Masterini. Then it's Sartini in Vancouver. Then you're talking about the guys in new places. Hendrickson in Chicago, Bradley in Toronto, Nico Estevez in Dallas, Pat Noonan in Cincinnati, Paulo Nagamura in Houston, and Steve Cherundolo in LA. None of them are going to be on hot seats. I don't think at all. So it's not really a hot seat kind of year. It's weird. Last couple of years, it felt like there's a bunch of hot seats. I don't think this is a hot seat kind of year. I think it's Adrian Heath closest to the hot seat to start the year. Yeah, Uncle, you're right, and that's a big part of it with Neville. The relationship with Beckham is very important. It would have to be really bad for him to get fired at this point. I think everybody realistically knows they're not going to be a top team this year. So, Ricky, Cherundolo would have to be really bad in LA if there was a big name that they thought they could get. I don't see it. I don't.
Please have Greg Vanny not make the playoffs in the Galaxy and LAFC go.
Down?
Yeah.
You guys are just trying to create soap operas right now. That's not happening.
Hell yes. And then win a title with LAFC.
That's not happening. Nah, not happening.
Zero fun, sir.
It's not happening. I am really curious to watch Bob Bradley's Toronto experiment. Yeah. I'm really curious to see how many goals they give up. That could get a little intriguing, but I don't think that will happen either.
Just imagine them breaking New England's record for points in a season and losing in the first round.
They're not. Toronto's not going to get points in a season. No. They don't get Insigne until the middle of the season, and I don't think Jimenez is going to score that many goals, and I don't know who's going to keep goals out.
You and me. That's actually. I meant to tell you, it's going to be us.
Not me. I didn't pass the physical, man. I ain't going to that team. That ain't happening. All right, that'll do it for us for the week. Sunday, 10:30. Chivas, mix of first and second and maybe third team grouping for Chivas, along with hopefully Jota
Macias.
Looking forward to that. That'll be 10:30 on atlutd.com/live. And then hopefully, if they don't move the field on us, Tepatitlan, the Liga de Expansión in Mexico, the second division. We can tell you all about Tepatitlan. Their new manager, Diego Marioni, who just came over after they've had a bad start to the season. He was at Pumas last. So they've got a big name in the technical area, but the team that struggled a little bit in the second division. But hopefully we'll get both games. Hopefully we'll get a lot of minutes of Atlanta United action to talk to you about. We will be doing it remotely, so bear with us. Hopefully everything works out well. It will be the same production team as last week in Guadalajara and against Celaya. So I'm expecting a really good feed to be coming to us here in Atlanta, and Mike and I will describe what we're seeing to you. 10:30 is the first game. We'll probably be on just a little bit before that, probably like 5 minutes or so before, with a very short pregame. And we'll see how that goes. And then there's this thing called a Super Bowl afterwards. Enjoy it. Have fun. Who knows? We might talk a little bit about that on Monday. I'm sure we'll talk a lot about Atlanta United action and anything else that happens over the weekend. Maybe Josie Altidore will be officially announced by New England at some point today. Maybe Miguel Ángel Ramírez will speak more about how he feels about his roster right now. I hope he does. They play on Saturday. I think they're the 7:00 game. I can't remember if they play Miami or Charleston in the first day, but don't worry about it, John. We're leaving. You can look it up. It's on Charleston Battery's website. Have fun, and maybe you can try to find a way to watch that. We're out. Mucho plata, y'all. Bye.
Bye.
Mucho plata, y'all.